What's up, YouTube? We're going live in just a minute to continue this awesome talk and tutorial for beginners on compression strength for the press to handstand. Just waiting for our notifications to get out to YouTube land. Phil's coming to join me now. Don't go anywhere. We're going to be live in about 60 seconds. So you want to know how to get better at compression strength. Well, in this video, we are going to take you through some progressions for compression strength. So still beginner stuff, but we're going to take you through a few different options for people that are starting to get a little bit further than the stuff that we went through yesterday, so that you can master compression strength for the press to handstand and other calisthenics movements. Make sure you stick around to the end, because as always, we're going to answer your questions and we're going to go through the biggest mistakes that people are making when working on compression strength. All that and more coming up.
We are the gym that teaches people how to move instead of just exercise, because we believe that health is about performance, not just body image.
Hey everyone, in case we haven't met, my name is Rad Burmeister. I'm one of the co-founders of Unity Gym and co-creators of the UMS, the Unified Movement System, where we take driven people and turn them into superhumans. And the way that we get such amazing results with our members is that we've created a program that has a perfect balance between strength and flexibility. It's very rare to find. And if you want to know how we do that and you want to get started, then download our free flexibility blueprint. There's a link in the description of this video. How are you, Phil?
I'm well. I'm excited to wrap this one up, I think. I've had enough compression strength for one lifetime, so
you've got a few more days ahead of you, buddy. It's only Tuesday.
Yeah, no, it's been good. It's been definitely, I just love learning new things, new techniques, new skills. I think that's just such a satisfying thing after a lifetime of doing one sport for a long time. Learning all this new stuff is great.
Yeah, it's so much fun, isn't it?
Yeah,
There's just so much room for improvement, isn't there?
Yes, but also it's very painful, so keen to
that's how it is.
give it a go.
So, what was I going to say? I had something that I was going to say. Well, I've forgotten. But anyway, if you're watching, guys, please hit that like button and leave a comment with your name and where you're watching from so that we can give you a shout out. We've got one comment here from Tian Fan who says, land and human ownership are the two biggest economies on planet Earth. That's an interesting statement to put on our video. Not sure where you're coming from with that one, but interesting point. So yeah, if anybody else has any fun facts that they'd like to share with us, please feel free to put them in the comments.
Fun fact Tuesdays.
Yeah. So let's get out on the gym floor. Let's put Phil through some pain, and let's get this compression strength underway.
And again, I'd just love to hear if anyone else has already given this stuff a go and is sharing my pain. So let us know in the comments.
Yeah, let us know. Have you tried any of our compression stuff that we've been sharing with you guys these last couple of days? And if you have, how has it worked for you? It's a lot of fun. It's probably more fun for the person telling somebody else to do it than it is for the person doing it. But anyway. All right, so what we're going to do today, to start with, we're going to go into, yesterday we did a couple of passive stretches that are really great options to do. Today we're going to go into the most beginner loaded stretches that we do for the hamstrings, okay, to develop a forward fold, a pike. And the first one we do is a single leg good morning. This is such an awesome stretch, and I'll tell you why I love it, and then Phil can tell you the science talk behind why this works so well. So what we're going to do is stand on one foot. The other foot touches the ankle. This is very, very important. Can you zoom in on my foot here, Richie? It is very important that you understand you are not standing on your foot. You are not standing on your shin. You are literally touching your toe to the ankle. As soon as you put pressure on that foot, you're taking away from the reason as to why you're standing on one foot, which is to create instability. We're trying to create instability, and I'll tell you why in a minute. So, standing on one foot, one hand on the stomach, one hand on the lower back. The hand on the lower back is doing this old hang 10 symbol here, and the reason why that is so that the little finger can go on the coccyx, the three middle fingers and the thumb can go on the lumbar vertebra, and then I can really feel if my back is rounding. Through the feeling of having my hand on my stomach and the hand on my back, I can tell if my lumbar spine is rounding, which is what we don't want for this movement. We want to isolate this to hip flexion and extension. So from here, we're going to go into a really hyper-extended position of the spine so that we're already pushing the hamstring flexibility, and then we're going to lean forward as far as we can go without getting any spine flexion, and then we're going to come back up. Now, one thing, Phil, make sure that left knee is completely locked out. Don't let it bend at all. For a lot of you, that's as far as you'll be able to go. You'll get to 45 degrees and you'll come back up, and that's fine. For me, because I've been doing this for a while and I have a higher level of flexibility than the average person, I can get down to about horizontal with my spine, so about 90 degrees, maybe a bit further. Okay, and we're going to do 10 reps. Okay, so let's call it 4. I'll do 10 if you can keep up with me just for the sake of the video. 5. Okay, for a lot of you, this is really hard to balance. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then we're going to hold it for 10 seconds. So let's hold it. Come down as low as you can go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Change sides. Tough, eh? You feel it in the hamstring?
Yeah, I feel it in the hamstring. I also feel it in the glute because, again, this is a nice, good bang for your buck stretching exercise because you're also getting really good ankle stability exercise and hip stability exercise. So when you're doing it, you want to make sure that your hip's not dropping. You keep it nice and level throughout. So it's going to be a really good workout for your hip, and I'm feeling it.
Good. Okay, so from here, this is going to build strength in the glutes as well, not just flexibility. 1, keep that knee straight as much as you can. 2, you really want to fight to keep that knee locked straight. Look at my knee. 3, 4. You can see the reason why Phil's struggling to keep his knee as straight as mine, 5, is because when you lock the knee out, you remove one of the 3 joints in your lower body that are helping keep you stable. Because as the knee moves around, as the ankle moves around, as the hip moves around, that movement is what keeps us stable. So when you lock the knee out, you remove the knee's ability to assist in that stabilization process.
If you're walking on stilts.
Yeah, and you're really just relying on your ankle and your hip. It makes it much harder, okay? Now let's call this 10 and we'll hold it now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm lifting my shorts up so you can see that I'm keeping my knees straight. 9, 10, good stuff. All right. Yeah, so we'd normally do 3 sets of that. 10 reps, 10-second hold at the end. Be really honest with yourself with the movement. Film yourself. Make sure you're not rounding your back. Make sure your knees straight. So,
and again, just to because this is a bit of a thing with people some people are a bit freaked out by a rounded back, and hopefully if you watch this, you know that we're not saying that you should never round out your back. It's just to keep that hamstring stretch at its full potential.
Yep.
You want to keep your back extended because that will lock your pelvis in an anterior pelvic tilt, which will be more of a hamstring stretch. So that's the reason for the no round back.
That's exactly right. Yeah, we have certain exercises where we specifically say you should round your back. Example would be the Jefferson curl, which is something that we've done in this series in the last week, if you look back on some of our videos. But then there's other exercises where we say don't round your back at all, and there's different reasons to do it.
Yeah, not a safety thing, just
this is the specific technique for this exercise. So that's a really good way to develop to do a loaded stretch, because what we're doing is we're eccentrically loading, so we're going down with an eccentric contraction where the muscle has to lengthen under tension. So it's not relaxed, it's under tension as it lengthens down, but you're only using your body weight, so it's quite a safe movement. Anything else you want to add to that, Phil?
No, I just like that you're also getting the single leg stability stuff as well. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's really good. Oh, yeah, so that's the other thing I wanted to say. So by standing on one leg, not only are you creating single leg stability, but what happens is that the muscles, the main muscle group that we're trying to target here, the hamstrings, which has 3 tendons at the end, connecting down behind the knee joint here, it causes them all, as you lose balance, it causes the tension to go differently between all of the 3 tendons, which is much more like the way that your body would experience going to a full range of motion movement very suddenly during sport. It's very rare that you're very suddenly, when you're running or sprinting or changing direction in tennis, that your muscles are going to be pulled to their full range of motion in a perfect plane like that. It's always going to be like, there could be more load on the biceps femoris on the outside, or there could be more load on the semimembranosus on the inside, and you don't know. It's completely unpredictable. So by doing this, it just adds that instability and that unpredictability so that you're training your loaded stretching in a more realistic way. And that's what I love about this movement. So now we're going to go down and we're going to do a really nice loaded stretch for the adductors. Okay, and we're going to do Cossack squats. Whoops. We're going to do Cossack squats from side to side, but we're going to do them a little bit differently than what most people teach them. So from here, we're going to come down. Now, if you're an absolute beginner, what you're going to be doing, it's going to be looking more like this, okay? And that's totally fine, but I'm going to go to my full range of motion. So we'll come down to the ground. And now what we're going to do, this leg is going to pull us this way. This leg isn't going to push. So I'm pulling into the ground so that the adductors tighten and pull me in. And then I'm going to go to the other side. So we create tension through the adductors to pull us over. Can you feel that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just a nice way to introduce a little bit of load and dynamic mobility at the same time. Okay? And you can do sets of this. You could do sets of 10 or 20 reps on each side. Okay? Now what we're going to do, so those are 2 examples of some loaded stretching you can do. Really basic stuff. This is real beginner level here. The main reason why it's beginner level, the main reason is that we're not adding external load. So we haven't grabbed weight plates or anything and put them on our backs. We're not grabbing onto dumbbells or kettlebells. So it's quite safe because you're only playing around with your own body weight.
It's still useful for anyone.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Shit, yeah, absolutely.
Beginner, it's just foundational stuff.
Yeah, foundational stuff. That's probably a better way to say it, isn't it, Phil? Now, what we're going to do today, we're going to do a little bit of different compression strength. So this is actually, and we have actually done this in one of the videos that we did last week, but I'm going to talk through as to why we would do this and why it's just a different tool to have in your toolbox. So in most of the compression strength that we've been doing so far, and in most compression strength, to be honest, you're placing your hands still, trying to keep your body still, and you're trying to lift your legs towards your torso. What we're going to do today is we're going to play around with 2 options where we actually try and bring our torso towards our feet, okay? So from here, Phil and I both aren't very warmed up here at all. What we've just done there is bugger all, so this is not going to be our best effort. Remember that during this series, what I've spoken about is one of the biggest things that's going to help improve your compression strength is if you increase your pike flexibility, so your hamstring flexibility and your pancake flexibility. And you need to stretch your body so that your full range of motion at your most flexible is accessible when you do compression strength. I'm a big believer in that. And Phil and I aren't even close to that right now because we have not done 3 sets of each of those exercises really at a bare minimum. So this isn't going to be our best effort, but you can still see what we're trying to do here. So our arms are going to go up And for 10 seconds, we're going to be contracting our abs and our hip flexors and our quads to pull our chest down to the ground. Now, what I mean by for 10 seconds is that we want to try and time it so it takes us 10 seconds to get from here to as far as we can go, and we want to avoid spinal flexion as much as possible. So we want to avoid doing that, okay? So arms up, coming down, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now we come back. And again, we'll do 2 more.
So you're pushing up through your hands.
Yeah, pushing up and extending the spine. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And 1 more.
Cramps.
Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Nice work, Phil. Cool. So that's just one example of some compression strength work that you can do where you're rather bringing your chest and your torso towards your feet rather than the other way around. So you're still training the same muscles, but you're just changing the neural pathway between the way that you're doing it.
And I guess with that extending of your arms as well, similar to that press to handstand position, you're really
That's exactly right.
training that, getting used to being in that position.
That's exactly right. Yep.
Elevating.
Yep, that's exactly right. So now we're going to move into a pancake position. Okay. Maybe even a little bit wider than a pancake, but whatever.
As far as I got.
No worries. So we're going to put the weight over our ankle. And what we're going to do, we're going to intentionally externally rotate this leg as much as we can. This leg we don't care about. Let it do whatever it wants.
And if you don't have a 5 kilo beanbag?
Well, before we had these, I used a 10 kilo weight plate. And a 10 kilo weight plate helped to push my foot out anyway. These things are obviously just made for this. This is what they're for. They're really good because it's just comfortable and it gives you that 5 kilo weight there. But a weight plate over your foot, so that weight plate will force you into external rotation.
Maybe chuck a towel under it if it's uncomfortable.
For sure, yeah, for sure. Just play around with it. You know, you just got to be. So much of this stuff, the way that I do it, I came up with myself. I knew what the goal of the exercise was, but I watch people all the time giving tutorials and learning from my coaches, and they're using equipment that I don't have, and you just got to be creative, you know. But anyway, so 5 or 10 kilo plate here. The idea is the amount of weight is irrelevant. It should be an immovable object. It should be an object that your body can't move, and for in hell, we're going to be lifting that leg, okay? So, now what we're going to do, we're going to externally rotate as much as we can, and the reason why we do that is because what we want to be doing is training the adductors here more than the quadriceps, okay? So this is not so much for compression strength, this is for the splits, but it's going to help in that shortened range of motion which is required for a press to handstand. So, externally rotating here, and then what we're going to do is we're going to do 5 times 5 seconds with a 5-second break of squeezing down as hard as we can to here. What we think of is we think pull this foot to our head, but because that weight's there, our body's actually going to go down there. So ready? Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Relax. And again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can't use your hand on this one, so don't even touch your leg. And again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Relax. Is that 4 or 3?
I think it's 3.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Relax. One more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And now just fall down. And just let your body stretch it out a little bit. Nice. Okay, let's change sides. So as uncomfortable as compression strength all is, these ones that we're doing today, they're not as uncomfortable. Yeah, then
just getting really deep into the stretch.
Compared to the stuff that we have been doing, this is, yeah, a lot more gentle, isn't it? Yeah, okay. So here we go. So I'm externally rotating and then pulling down using my adductors. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you can just fall and relax here if you want. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now what you're looking for, hopefully, is if you watch me on my last couple of reps, I can get my head to my leg. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's what you're aiming for as you progress with that. Awesome. There you go. That's it. That's what we're going to do for today. It's just a couple more options for beginners to play around with, and advanced people. You know, if you're advanced, you're changing the neural pathway by doing these exercises. These are going to help you break through some plateaus. A lot of what you need to do to break through plateaus is just do something that you've never done before. So yeah, let's go in, have a little debrief, Phil. See if we've got any questions. If you're watching, guys, please hit that like button. Leave us a comment with your name and where you're watching from so we can give you a shout out, and give us any questions that you've got about compression strength and about the press to handstand and about everything we do here.
Feels
Morning.
so loosey-goosey.
Morning, Quack. Yanni is in Europe. He will be there for another 3 weeks, I think. Cohen Parker is saying, nuts, my phone doesn't show the notification when you guys start the stream. Sorry about that, Cohen. But you will be able to watch it after it's live.
Yeah, maybe have a play around with your settings because it should work. It works for other people.
Yeah, right, okay. Yeah, maybe it's to do with your email, because it's an email notification.
No, it even comes up with a YouTube notification. So just check you haven't blocked YouTube
Yeah, you got to
entirely
check your
or
notifications in the setting.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So how'd you go?
Yeah, again, that felt pretty nice compared to what we've been doing recently. So yeah, I think just remind me I haven't done much like static sort of prolonged stretching like that for a while, and it does feel pretty good, hey? So the thing is, as we talked about yesterday, though, is like you really want to make sure on the days where you are doing that sort of more intense stretching that you're not doing the muscle strengthening after that, or you're not doing anything ballistic or so sprinting or jumping or running, and like you won't fall to pieces, but you're at an increased risk of injury. So when you're programming out your days, like we do here at Unity, is you're doing the opposing muscle group. So if you're doing like a bench press session, for example, today, or military press or pull-ups, then this would be a really great one to do in your rest periods. And,
Yep, exactly.
And vice versa. So.
Yep, and every now and then, personally, I don't do this with beginners at all because we give them mixed messages, but with our senior students and with myself, sometimes I do program stretching on the same muscle group that I'm strengthening, but that's only when I've made the decision that I want to break through some flexibility plateaus and I need to program my flexibility through the week without consideration for how it affects strength training. But when I do that, I immediately accept that my strength training is going to be done at a lower intensity. I'm not going to be breaking any records, and I'm doing very safe strength training with weights. I'm not doing direction changing sports and explosive movement and things like that. So
yeah, and again, like it's not like as soon as you do any static stretching, you're going to fall to pieces. Like people are, a lot of people now when you see them go for a run will sit there doing a 1 minute hamstring stretch hold, and they're all right, but just the totality of the research is showing it's more and more a good idea to be doing it on your rest days rather than the days you're doing exercise, or at least afterwards. So.
Yeah. So Thomas Kishman 2, or Thomas Kishman the second, is saying, how often should you train compression strength? That's a really good question. I love that somebody's asked that.
Also has come up with Holly Mo, who asked, can we do this routine every time at the end of weight training sessions? So
okay, good. So Holly Mo is saying, good afternoon from Melbourne, love your channel, lots of detailed explanation. Can we do this routine every time at the end of weight training
And that was yesterday, so similar sort of idea.
So the golden rule that I would say for compression strength, you can do it at the end of, or as part of any flexibility session where you're training the flexibility to get into a pike or a pancake, okay? So you have to be training the flexibility for that as well. The deeper I go into this stuff, I think that I wouldn't actually train compression strength with multiple sets the way that we're talking about here, where you're really doing this stuff that causes you cramps more than twice a week. I think twice a week is enough. I think it's like similar to really pushing yourself to the limits with high volume on any other muscle groups. Like I personally, I know people do this. I know people squat every day and people bench every day and in certain specialization sports or with strength athletes. It's not for me. It's something that causes too much delayed onset of muscle soreness, and I find that I can't just move through life pain-free or relatively pain-free if I do more than that. So I really like not doing more than twice a week on, on my squats, or not more than twice a week on my bench press or shoulder press or pull-ups or whatever. I find that works well, and I find the same thing with compression strength. That said, you can, if you stretch your hamstrings and your pancake every day, if that's something that you're doing, which is something you can do, it's a greasing the groove method, then you can do a little bit of compression strength at the end of your hamstring flexibility, but you would not be doing multiple sets and reps. Like you might do 3 sets of one exercise and that's it. And it's really just to train the central nervous system's ability to activate those muscles. So there's different ways to skin a cat. To sum all of that up, I'd say if you're going to do full-on compression strength workouts where you're pairing it with loaded flexibility and everything like what we do in our mobility masterclass, I wouldn't do it more than twice a week. If you're just doing general stretching and you're stretching your hamstrings and your adductors and everything every day, then you can do a little bit of compression strength at the end of each workout.
Yeah, totally. Again, like it kind of comes down to your goals a bit, but if your goals are, progressions in your calisthenics, then like maybe it would make sense to, really double down on this. But as Rad's talked about in the last, week of episodes, is that the biggest thing that he's had progression with his calisthenics is taking a step back from doing the skills every day and working on all-round strengths. So it's kind of up to you to make that decision about what makes you happy and what makes you want to jump out of bed and get to training every day. But I'd say that generally that twice a week where you're really pushing it and getting high enough intensity that you'll see adaptation, that will be like the
and high enough volume.
And high enough volume as well. And but you might try that kind of low volume or like low intensity stuff while you're doing your stretching, just to get some more exposure to that inner range, which could help with the cramps settling down a bit quicker. But that's up to you and how much time you have in your workout.
Yeah, cool. All right, so M. Munro is saying, absolutely love these beginner sessions. Thank you. Unfortunately, I'm still trying to progress my push-ups and adding strength and size to my legs. Mad respect from England. It's great to see that you guys are enjoying these beginner sessions. Maybe we can, because the push-up and the pull-up, these two calisthenics movements that are really basic movements, but that seem so unattainable for somebody if they can't do them. Like the amount of people that I've trained that have said, oh my God, I would just want to be able to do a push-up. Maybe if we get enough interest, maybe we can do a couple of shows later this week on how to go from 0 push-ups to being able to do good push-ups. And we can go over again.
There's just so much variety about how you can do them, and there are certain push-ups that if you have a angry shoulder might be pretty uncomfortable, but there's ways that you can change them up and might be sort of fine, and there's different ways you can target different muscle groups more if you do it in different ways. So some people sort of think just a push-up's a push-up, but it might be something worth exploring.
And look, a real in a brief nutshell, without going into the techniques and the progressions that you do, one of the biggest things you need to understand is the way that you manipulate volume to achieve adaptation in the body, and the way that you use overload, which is this goes across any strength building. You have to understand how to use overload, which means that you increase the total volume that you do from workout to workout. And all of the best strength coaches talk about that if you're doing good programming that isn't causing you injuries and you're recovering well from it, you should increase your total volume in every single workout. And the coaches that I like to follow, that I've learned from, they talk about as soon as you can't increase volume over every workout, then what you need to do is do a deload week and allow your body to recover and then repeat the process again. And there's so many different ways to increase total volume, but one of the easiest ways is to count the total amount of reps that you've done in a workout. And let's say you did 50 push-ups in one workout by doing 10 sets of 5 reps. If you were somebody that was a real beginner, then try to do in the next workout, try and do 52 push-ups or 53 push-ups. And then in the next workout, try and do 54 or 55.
So when you're saying volume there, I guess you're sort of saying, like when I think volume, I think sets and reps, so it's like the total number of things, but you're also talking intensity.
No. So I'll make it really clear, and I'm really happy that you asked that question, because I actually didn't really understand the difference between volume and intensity properly until recently, when I reread a bunch of really great books, to help me finalize the way that we're going to write the UMS program. So volume is the total amount of work done. So an example would be, you could count volume by the total amount of weight lifted. So if you were doing squats, if you were doing 50 kilo squats and you were doing 10 reps in a set, then in one set you're going to do 500 kilos. So if you did 5 sets of that, then in your workout you do 2,500 kilos. So the way you could talk about increasing volume for that workout is you could say, next workout I want to do 2,600 kilos. And there's different ways you could do that. You could do 11 reps in each set, or you could do 52 kilos for 10 reps in each set, so you increase the total amount of weight you lift. With body weight exercises, it would usually be the amount of reps that you've done because you're just controlling your body weight. Whereas intensity is when you increase the intensity of the exercise selection. So the way that would usually mean is by going up in weight is increasing intensity if you're lifting amount of weight. So going from 8 reps where you're doing 50 kilos or 10 reps where you're doing 50 to 5 reps where you're doing 65 or 70 kilos, that's an increase in intensity. Or for body weight training, it's when you go to a harder progression. So it's when you go from a pike handstand push-up to an eccentric wall handstand push-up. Yep. Yeah. So I hope that helps. And yeah, when you it sounds really, really confusing when you hear it like this, and it confused me as a professional personal trainer for years and years and years. So yeah, if anybody wants to know more about that, let us know.
Yeah, I think it's just really understand how you can figure out how to change the variables to keep on progressing, because I think that's the thing that people often will just keep trying to maybe add 1 rep at a time, but then instead you could be changing the the amount of weight you're lifting or the type of exercise you're doing if it's calisthenics and how you're positioning your body. Yep.
And I mean recently
frequency, intensity, time, and type.
Yeah.
Is the big one.
Yep. The old FIT principle. So recently, you and Yanni have both on separate occasions commented on how I'm constantly recording my stuff. That was the biggest change that I made this year. Yeah. When I reflected back on the last 5 years, and why have I not gotten to where I would like to be? I haven't achieved the results that I want. I want to get better than I am, and I hoped for the time I've invested in my training I would be better than I am now. And the one thing that really stood out to me was the most basic thing that every new personal trainer gets taught, which is, if you're not manipulating volume and you're not recording your progress and tracking it so that you can see that you're making progress, then how you're just guessing. And I wasn't even doing that.
Manage.
Yeah, exactly. So I went back to literally recording every single set, every rep of every workout, every bit of weight. So then I can, in my next workout, I can look at exactly what I did in my last workout, and I just say, okay, well, I need to do this in order to increase the volume. I have to. And through that process, you constantly get better. Yeah. Okay, so we've got another bunch of great questions here. Kwok Nguyen is saying, hey, Rad, know you guys like to do lower body strength with upper body stretching, but could I do a lower body workout like squats and lunges, combining it with loaded flexibility? I answered that question before. I'm not sure if you heard, and you've got a second part to this. I don't go heavy with squats, just 60 to 80 kilos. Example, squats with pike stretch, stiff leg deadlifts, and loaded pancake. You absolutely can. You absolutely can, Kwok, but you've just got to be aware of what it's going to do. And when I've done that, so you can do, let's say you're saying 60 to 80 kilos, but I don't know how much you can lift. So the number actually means absolutely nothing, because if your maximum squat was 85, then you're actually talking about a very heavy weight. But if your maximum squat was 120, then that's a very light weight. So 60 to 80 for me would be a very, very light weight. I could do any kind of flexibility between that, and I would have very little chance of injuring myself. I shouldn't say that. I still wouldn't do passive stretching. I would do some loaded stretching in between sets.
So loaded being he's contracting against.
Contracting, like the single leg good morning that we just did.
Just to be quite clear.
Versus the passive stretch that we did yesterday on the hamstring. So you absolutely can, but you've got to be aware that your strength training is going to suffer. You're not going to be like, if you're doing proper strength training, so if you're doing sets of 5 reps or less for someone at your level, then the reason why you do 5 reps or less is to try to do high intensity to increase your strength. And if you're doing that and doing stretching between, you're just not going to be able to do it. It won't happen. You won't be able to lift maximal strength.
Just one way, if you do want to get in your total, more frequency. So again, just looking at those variables, the frequency of your pike or pancake training is do it at the end of your workout. Like instead of doing it in the rest period, so instead of going from a loaded pike into a squat, find something else to do in your rest periods, and then at the end of the workout do those. Because again, you're not as likely to injure yourself if you're not doing if you've made your hamstrings a bit fatigued through the stretching, and you've decrease their strength potential, that doesn't matter if you're then going to go and train clients for today, or hang out and or go to bed. Like, that doesn't matter. So doing it at the end of the workout, totally fine. But what we're talking about here is either doing it before as a warm up or interspersed between your squat training. So
I'll tell you how I do it, Quack, because I do sometimes at the moment. I'm actually doing on Fridays. That's our deadlift day, but I'm working pike flexibility and compression strength. But what I do is I don't start my flexibility training until I've done my 5 sets of deadlifts. So I get my primary lifts done with no stretching done between it at all, so that I'm really strong and I can focus on really increasing my strength with the deadlift nice and safely. But then when I do my supplementary lifts, I'm doing stretching between it, and I just accept that my supplementary lifts are not going to be done at maximal strength, and they're supplementary, so I'm doing higher volume anyway, and I take that hit. I'm very happy to do that because I want to get more flexible, and at least I've had the opportunity to work on my deadlift. So that's how I'd do it if I was you. So Holy K Knight, Tommy is saying, morning guys, I was showing the straddle pancake compressions and hamstring stretches last night, eagerly anticipating the DOMs to kick in. Let us know how it goes, brother. Michael P is saying, how would you quantitatively compare calisthenics progressions for intensity? As I said, it's the way that you basically go from one progression to the next. So because the way calisthenics progressions work is pretty much, this is a really this is a broad generalization of it, so there might be specifics that aren't like this, but generally speaking, every time a calisthenics progression increases in intensity, you decrease the mechanical advantage from leverage, which means for a tuck front lever, you go to an advanced tuck where your center of gravity moves further away from your body, which decreases the mechanical advantage of leverage, putting more strain on the shoulders and abs and everything.
Yeah, but in terms of quantitatively, so putting numbers to it, it's very hard to do unless you're taking photos. And there's some pretty cool apps you can use. What's it called? Huddle Technique, HUDDL. Technique, or Coach's Eye, where you can actually take photos of videos and then you can superimpose like angles onto it. So that could be a way if you really did want to get quite serious about quantitatively comparing it, but it is much harder to do with calisthenics movements. And that's why we've talked about quite a lot before how we like to really
like to incorporate weightlifting as well.
Using strength training is a way that you can really quantitatively, so using numbers to track progression is so much easier to do with your weights. So
I've got an answer for a better question for you. The better question would be, how do I apply this to calisthenics? And the way that you would apply it to calisthenics is you choose a progression that you can do and you quantitatively track volume, which is very, very easy because it's just total amount of reps performed in a workout or total amount of seconds performed in isometric holds, and that's really what calisthenics is about. It's either reps or isometric holds, and you increase the volume from workout to workout to workout until you get to a point where you can increase the intensity by going to the next progression, but the volume drops back, and then you repeat that process again, and then you go to the next progression. And if it was that simple that it was all just going from one progression to the next, it'd be cool, but in a nutshell, that's how it works.
Yeah, maybe you should be just getting your own laptop and putting in your own questions. Their questions.
Yeah. Okay, so Mega Lol is saying, why are push-ups so hard and how do you progress in them? That's kind of like saying how long's a piece of string, but generally speaking,
you don't do them very often.
Yeah, you don't do them.
That's the thing. It's like you get good at what you spend your time doing. So if you did more push-ups, you'd get there. But obviously, if you can't do one push-up, it's very hard to do any push-ups. So you've got to find ways that you can do partial push-ups, and that's what we could go through.
Yeah, that's what we can go through, and using eccentrics and stuff. A lot of women struggle with push-ups. It's more common as a trainer that I come across women that can't do one push-up than men. Not to say that the men's push-ups are any good. And usually when I asked, I can't remember who it was, but it was someone that has a hell of a lot more PhDs than I do, and they were very well educated.
PhDs,
and their answer was, they said the reason why men are better at upper body strength than women, generally speaking, of course there's exceptions, is because they're born with more muscle mass in their upper body. And whatever you're born with, if there's more base there, it's easier to build more of it. So if you're somebody that's born with less muscle mass in your upper body, you are going to struggle with push-ups. If you're somebody that has a heavier body weight, but not as much muscle mass, so there's a lot of really big people out there, but that don't have a lot of muscle mass on their arms and their upper body, then you're really going to struggle with push-ups. So there's so many reasons as to why that could happen.
The joys of regressions is there's always something that you can be doing to work towards it, and there's always a way that that you can then progress to go past it. And you know, there are plenty of women out there, like you watch the CrossFit Games, and they're just doing absolutely
it's ridiculous. They put me to
things
shame
with,
any day.
So,
I would never even dream of standing up to one of those
you know,
CrossFit girls. They'd shame me.
Yeah.
So Tommy is saying, so is that what accumulation training is? Accumulation training is, yes, more volume, Tommy. And then Tommy's saying, accidentally removed my second last comment, was just saying thanks for clearing up the difference between volume and intensity. It was bearing on my mind for a while. So volume is accumulation training and intensity is intensity training. And Quack is saying, got you, thank you. Then Tommy's saying, I use Coach's Eye with my own acro skills to help my kids see what they're actually doing instead of what they think they're doing. Yeah, Coach's Eye is awesome.
Yeah, it's so great. You can slow it down. You can use this scroll wheel, so you're seeing it in slow motion back and forth, and it's really great for seeing technique change. So.
Yeah. And Tommy's saying, yeah, not that the men are any good at the push-ups. Ha ha ha, it's true. Yeah, you're absolutely right. But you know, it's funny because what Phil was saying before, it's all about regression. People don't understand how to regress and progress. So people look at a push-up and they go, oh, I'm going to try a push-up. I can't do a push-up.
Especially with a pull-up where they're like, okay, well, like that bar's up there. How am I going to get any of that?
Yeah. And it's all just about understanding how to regress the movements until you find something that you can do.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for watching, everybody. I'm not sure exactly what we're going to do tomorrow, but it is going to be continuing on this compression strength press to handstand journey. So it's going to be probably still a little bit of pain for Phil, but it's still going to be for beginners. So tune in tomorrow if you want to know how to keep going with this compression strength press to handstand, and give us any comments that you have in this video in the thread for what you want to see so that we can do, because we've only got another literally another 5 days of shows.
So handstand, maybe some more handstand training, maybe, just so I don't have to do compression strength.
Yeah, maybe. And then we'll be breaking for Christmas for five days or so with no shows, but we've got a couple of pre-produced videos for you guys that are going to go up, which you'll love. So yeah, let us know, and we will see you tomorrow. Enjoy training.
Health is about performance, not just body image.
You better be willing to accept what you're going to have to do to get there.
We'll start focusing on movement goals, strength goals, flexibility goals.
When you nail that skill, it's there forever.
The body image goal doesn't get you that far.
It's the consistency and frequency that's going to get you there. It's not the intensity.
There's no shortcuts to mastery and movement. Destination doesn't change overnight, but your direction will.
The gym is not the place to beat up the body that you hate. It's the place to build the body that you love.
We are the gym that teaches people how to move instead of just exercise, because we believe that health is about performance, not just body image.